Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm your host, Jay Wernette. I'm joined now by Mike Havilah, CEO and President of Loaves Fishes Community Services, and Janet Derrick, Vice President of Loaves Fishes CARES program. So it's really nice to have you both on set together.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about why you're here together and the merging and the partnership. So I'm going to start out with you, Janet, and ask what led up to this?
So it really came about, it's been going over 2 years ago. We brought a seminar into the community called Bridges Out of Poverty. We had 2 seminars, and really what resonated with us was how do communities work together and help individuals, particularly the under-resourced individuals we work with. And how do we've always collaborated and coordinated Loaves Fishes and Naperville CARES. We're always great partners. So we looked at how can we work better together? At the same time, we were both going through strategic planning, and it really resonated with what we were looking at in each of our strategic plans, that we were both looking at how do we provide programming, what kind of programs should we be providing. So it really was a sort of a confluence of great points at one time.
Okay. And I think that's a really interesting point about just, there's oftentimes a lot of conversations going on separately, but if you can get them together, good things can happen,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mike, talk a little bit about that process of the whole bringing together, the merger, and obviously you had a new role in that. So let's talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. So just to add on to what Janet had mentioned, the key, the foundation really lies in the strategic plan. And so we had just gone through our strategic planning process at Loaves Fishes and approved a new strategic plan at the end of 2015. And part of that strategic plan included collaborating and partnering and possibly merging with other organizations, really for the benefit of the clients and the community. And so deciding to merge really had to do with, is it a part of your strategic plan or not? And in our case, it clearly was in both organizations' case. I think we also, in going through the process, came up with what Janet and I call the fundamental question, which was everything has to fall into, is this good for the community and the clients? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. And if we can continue to answer that question, yes, then as we went down and analyze the other aspects of the merger, which had to do with the strengths of the organization. We wanted it to be a 1 + 1 = 3, as well as how we integrate our volunteers, our databases, and so forth. But if we always came back to that fundamental question and could answer it, yes, it's good for the clients and the community, then the decisions were easier after that point.
Yeah, and I don't think people were surprised, and I think that's probably a good sign that just from an outsider's standpoint, it made a lot of sense to the outside community as well. Now, you talked a little bit about lots of things come together with that. How was that process?
So the key was we both hired outside counsel. Okay. That was number one. We each had a very clear plan with our boards. We laid it out to our boards very carefully and brought them along the steps, so we had very strong board approval and support. We kept, and another key point, we did keep this very confidential. It was in a very small group. Our actual team was very small, so Mike and I really actually did most of the one-on-one negotiations, and then we had a small team that we each went back to, but we kept that group extremely small. And so it was more, and it was very planned. We did have a very clear plan for it. And again, the confidentiality was the most important because as we were going through this process, we're both still fundraising.
Right.
And then we determined at what point, when it was going forward, at what point do we bring in outside stakeholders? So there was a very clear point, and it was very clear to us that we had to bring in certain stakeholders because we had some contractual agreements in place. So that was at a point when we had them sign confidentiality agreements. We brought 4 or 5 key stakeholders in those conversations, and we still hear today from them about how appreciative they were, and they're probably our biggest supporters of this merger. So again, it was a very focused and planned process.
Well, I think obviously you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the fact that client was at the center, and then you very carefully took care of everybody that is in support of that client. Absolutely. In the bringing it together. Right. That's fantastic. Now, Mike, how has it, you mentioned, Janet, fundraising, how has it impacted your fundraising abilities?
Sure, absolutely. So, as Janet mentioned, as we were getting close to completing the merger, we brought in a number of constituents from the community, especially those who provided funding to both Naperville CARES and Loaves Fishes. And we work with them and talk to them about the logic of the merger, what the benefit is to the community as well as the clients. And so from a fundraising point of view, we got phenomenal feedback, positive feedback. I think 100% of the groups that we talked to were in favor of what we were doing and really understood it. So from a fundraising point of view, we've done very well because the community understood it, and we brought them along early on in the process to make sure they understood that this really was a 1 + 1 = 3 type situation. And so those benefits are something that the funders understood, and we've continued to see really strong funding for the combined group.
That's great. That's great. That's wonderful. And so just for curiosity, because we always all want to know, what are some of those events that you've had? Because obviously you're both very well known for doing some outstanding fundraising events. What are the things you're going to keep now you have this partnership?
Right. So we've looked at the calendar, and we looked at the various events we had. So we had different events, different size events, different ticket prices, quite honestly. So we are keeping Cuisine for a Cause will be occurring at Navistar again, and that will be on April 29th.
All right.
And that's, as you know, is a very large Naperville cocktail party. We have a great partnership. So not only do we partner on programs, we have partnered on fundraising. So 360 Youth Services is a great partner of ours. And the last few years we've done Cars for a Cause, which will be in June.
Okay.
So we're going to continue that partnership. And then on August 26th will be Night to End Hunger, which is a more of a gala type thing at the Hyatt Oakbrook Lodge. So it's it's a different type of event for us. So it's different price points, different people have come, different ways to engage the community. So we've kind of taken a very strategic look at all our events coming up.
Okay, wonderful. Mike, as we close, if you had just one little bit of advice to other organizations such as yourself who are thinking about merging, what would it be?
Sure. Maybe I'll give you a couple bits, but basically the merger has to be supported by the strategic plan. It can't be the tail wagging the dog. And then you have to have your fundamental question, which is, in our case, is this merger good for the clients and good for the communities? Also having people on your team, either in leadership or your board, that have M&A type of experience is very helpful. Keeping it confidential, as Janet had mentioned, is very critical to the process. And I think finally, I would say having a small group rather than a large group run the process. So if their board can establish a smaller team to work on it, that will help you make decisions quicker and faster, and keep it in a situation where it does remain confidential until you get to the right points in the community. So that was a couple of bits, but hopefully that's helpful.
Great advice. And I mean, it is very, very exciting to see two wonderful organizations that have come together. And we wish you the best of luck in this new direction. And we know that your clients are going to be taken very well care of. So thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing part of that process. So we appreciate it. If you would like to find out more about the many ways Loaves and Fishes Community Services are assisting those in need, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.